Hi guys! So here I am to give you the definitive video about the rules for One Book July. There are no rules. Okay? You got that? Positive? Let me say it again. There are no rules. I know, it's mind-boggling, but there aren't. I've seen people in previous years, and again this year, writing posts on Instagram or doing videos or writing blog posts telling you what the rules are for One Book July. Please, if you see one of those posts, politely let this person know that actually there are no rules and point them to this video, okay? I can tell you 100%, absolutely positively guaranteed, there are no rules. How do I know this? Because it's my challenge. Okay? So, all these people telling you what the rules are, they are wrong. Okay? There are no rules. No rules. There are guidelines. There are no rules. That's first. Second, there are 3 versions of One Book July. You can do any, all, or a combination of any or all of those challenges. Pick and choose. It's up to you. Decide for yourself what you want to do and go for it. It's fine. I've seen people ask if it applies to planners or journals or bullet journals or notebooks or whatever. The answer is yes. Okay? Doesn't matter what you do, whether you're a planner, a bullet journaler, a bit of both, just a journaler, a written journaler, an art journaler, it does not matter what you are. Even if you don't do any of that and you just do project life or scrapbooking, this can apply to absolutely anything. The term book is simply to indicate one thing that you hold in your hand, okay? One thing, this is a planner. One thing, this is a journal. One thing, this is a sketchbook. Somewhere I've got a... hang on. One thing, okay? This is a 12 by 12 album for scrapbooking and project life, okay? That is your one book. One book. If you want to reinterpret one book as one book for planning and one book for journaling, that's fine. If you want to reinterpret one book as one traveller's notebook with 5 inserts for different things, that's fine. Go for it. If your one book is a filofax with lots of different sections and lots of different pages, but it's not technically a book, that's okay. Your one book can be a happy planner with an arc binding system. That's okay too, all right? One book. What does one book mean to you? If you rigidly believe that one book is literally this, a book, and you want to journal, then grab this and start journaling in it. Okay? If you rigidly believe that only books that have these kind of bindings on and are hardback are books that are worthy of your bullet journal, then use that book, okay? One book. Whatever one book means to you. Not to me, not to anybody else, not to the people who say they know what the rules are. You. July runs from the 1st of July to the 31st of July, but guess what? If you want to start now, you bloody well can. I'm getting a head start, a lot of us do. If you want to start prepping, if you want to start working out where you're going to start with it, if you want to start, you already know from previous years that you absolutely must have a monthly planner. Start looking on Pinterest now for that monthly planner that is going to work for July. Print it out. Get it in your book. Decide what book you're going to use. There is nothing wrong with starting now, prepping now, getting prepared now. I'm not going to tell you what I'm doing just yet. It's the journaling side as opposed to planning. But for the journaling that I'm doing, I need a lot of collage. So I've been going through pulling out collage pieces from all sorts of places and organising it. Because I don't want to be doing that on the 1st of July. Okay? Similarly, if you don't want to waste your book and you haven't finished it at the end of July, carry on with it. That's fine. You don't have to stop just because it's the 31st of July at midnight. Quit with the rules, okay? Rules were made to be broken anyway, and I'm an Aquarian. We don't do rules, all right? There are no rules. There are guidelines, there are suggestions, there are versions that give you ideas and prompts for what you can do, because just saying do something for July is a bit random. We try to give you some kind of, this is an idea you could do, this is an idea you could do, this is an idea you could do. But you don't have to rigidly stick to that one idea. Just because you're doing version 1 doesn't mean you can't include elements of version 2 or version 3. Speaking of version 1, start with 1 book and 1 pen for the month of July. That is the original challenge. 1 book, 1 pen, 1 month, see where it takes you. At no point did we ever say, you have to only use that 1 pen for that entire month. At no point did we say, you have to only use that entire book, and if you finish that book, you can't start another one. At no point did we say, you have to finish every page in that book, regardless of how many pages there are. At no point did we say, well, you can have a traveller's notebook, but you can only have 1 insert. If you want 6 inserts, put 6 inserts in. All right? The idea, the premise of the challenge is to start small and simple. We suggested, year 1, start with a pocket notebook and a pen, just an ordinary ballpoint pen or whatever favourite pen you have, and work from there. What did you need? In year 1, I think it was Vicky, before she even started, she said, there's no way I can use a pocket notebook. I'm going up a size. And she changed the challenge. Good for her. Within 4 hours of starting the challenge, Carrie had decided there was no way in hell 1 pen was ever going to happen. Fair dues to her. She uses a colour coding system. She's had a colour coding system that's been the same since she was a teenager. She organises 7 kids, 1 husband and a hockey team. She does not have time to ask about changing a colour coding system or working out what is what when it's all in black. Okay? She didn't have time for that. That's messing with the fundamentals of her system. She gave it a shot, she tried it for, like I say, 1 morning, and then she said, oh no, this is not happening. And she found a way around it, and the way around it she found was to use, I think she used a 5 colour Calito in the end, and she reduced it down to 5 colours, and technically it was 1 pen, but she had 5 inserts in 1 pen, just the same as she had 5 inserts in 1 notebook. She reinterpreted the challenge to fit what she needed. That is the whole point. You're getting back to basics to find out what you really need. Those people who are already putting out videos of here's my setup for 1 book July, and they've got more sticker sheets and dashboards and paper clips and post-it notes and bam, 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 bam in it, are kind of missing the point. Okay? They're not doing it wrong because there's no rules. I'm just saying they're kind of missing the point, because the point is to get back to basics and add in what you know you need, so that you know when you get to a point where you say, okay, this is the bare minimum that I need for my planning, my journaling, my art making, my project life, whatever. This is the bare minimum I have to have. Anything I add to this is gravy. That's the whole point. It's to get back to the system, especially for planners. And for journalers. What is it that you're writing down? How are you writing it down? How are you prioritising things? What is a priority? What needs to stand out? That was where I fit in the very first year. I did the planning as well for the first year. And I was also a colour coder, but I used different colours of highlighters. Now, I liked my highlighters, but I didn't think they were a necessity particularly. I just happened to like the way it worked. So I dropped my highlighters and I just used a black pen. And 2 days later, I was like, no, I can't do this. My first week update, I'm adding in a highlighter. I'm going to add 1 colour instead of 6. But I need something that says, this is today's priority. I need that visual. So for me, it was a block colour visual that said, this is what you need to concentrate on. And I decided to use a friction highlighter so that I could erase it and reuse it rather than having to swap colours. That's what the challenge is about. Getting your system to work for you. So if you start with the planning side and you start with a blank notebook and within hours you realise that there's no way you can do this without forward planning. Okay, so print out a monthly calendar. Start with July. Maybe within a week you realise, actually, I need to have calendars up to October because I need to be able to plan 3 or 4 months in advance. Print out some more calendars. Add them in. What if you then say, well, hang on a minute, I need to organise my week better. So print out a weekly insert. Not for the rest of the year, just for this week. Try a weekly insert. You might think, hang on a minute, I like this insert, but I'd prefer if it was vertical, or I'd prefer if it was horizontal. I'd prefer if it was dated. I'd prefer if it started on a Monday instead of a Sunday. You might find after 2 weeks of using a weekly that you don't need your monthly. So then you can take that out and say, okay, I don't need that. What I need is weeklies. You might have one particularly busy day where you say, oh, I really wish I had a today sheet. Print out a single today sheet for today. Maybe you love that system and you decide to use one every day. So then do you need your weeks? Or if you use a daily, would your monthlies work better with it? See, that is the point of it. What are you writing down? Are you writing down every single damn thing just so that you look busy? Or do you genuinely need to plan? Are you planning the right way for yourself? Are you actually just writing down what you did? Does that work for you? If it does, great. If it doesn't, ask yourself, why are you not looking at tomorrow and saying, what do I want to do tomorrow, instead of sitting down today and saying, what did I do today? Eveline, I think she still does YouTube, Eveline Timeless, go and look her up. She does planning, but she doesn't plan in advance. She plans after the fact, and she calls it her to-do list. It's not a to-do list, it's a to-do list, because she needs the feeling of accomplishment, but she doesn't have that much to do, so she doesn't really need to plan it in advance. So the to-do list works great for her, because every day when she thinks, oh, I didn't accomplish much today, she can write down what she did, and she's got a long list of stuff that she did actually achieve and she just didn't realise it. Do you need to separate out work and personal? Do you need to separate out the kids' calendar from yours? Do you need to separate out your partner's calendar from yours? Do you need a separate calendar for study? And if so, do you need a whole separate notebook, or do you just need the same notebook but just with an additional set of weeks pages in it? This is what you need to be looking at for One Book July, okay? It's not about, I must have one book and I must finish that one book and I must only use that one book for the entire set of July, and I must only use one pen, regardless of if it runs out. If it runs out, I'll just have to use a pencil. That's not what it's about, okay? If you start with one pen and you decide, you know what, I absolutely hate this pen on this paper, then change pens. What have you learned? You don't like that pen on that type of paper. If your pen bleeds through your paper, what have you learned? That ink doesn't work with that paper. If you're a fountain pen addict, one of the girls, I think it was the year before last, I can't remember who it was, shout if you remember it was you, had a fountain pen, and she had all these different inks that she hadn't tried. She had about 14 different inks that she had never used. So every 2 days, she changed the ink in her fountain pen so that she tried these different inks to see which ones she liked and which ones she didn't. That's an awesome way to use One Book July. I love it. There's a lot of different ways to interpret this. If you're a journaler, maybe you're an art journaler, but you want to set yourself a bit of a challenge. Well, version 2 was the perfect way to set yourself a challenge if you were a journaler, because version 2 was one project, one book, 1 month. So you picked a project that you wanted to get on with and you worked on it in July. And you didn't stress about it and you didn't mess about with it. You just got on with it. That project was July. A lot of people really liked that idea because things that they'd been putting off, they took it on as a challenge and said, you know what? I'm going to sort that kid's bedroom if it kills me. I'm going to fix my craft studio. Somebody went through and catalogued every single colour of every single thing she owned in her art studio and put it all into a binder. What a fabulous use of One Book July as a project. That's the kind of stuff people were doing. We had somebody who caught up on their first 6 months of 2016 in their Project Life book because they'd missed so much and they were getting stressed out about it. So they set 1 week for a day. So each week, each day in July, they sorted out 1 week of the year. And the spare days they used for printing photos, deciding what photos they wanted, doing journaling cards, that kind of thing. That's the kind of thing that version 2 was aimed at. Version 3 is another one where you can interpret it in any way you want. The same premise is still there. 1 book, 1 pen, 1 month. Off you go. But this year, the premise is go big or go home. What does that mean? It means whatever you want it to mean. Do you want to take on a really big project? Do you want to take on a really big book? Do you want to learn to write big? You know, there's all sorts of things you could do. Do you want to do a daily challenge in one notebook? Do you want to fill an entire notebook? Do you want to make a big dent in a big notebook? Do you want to trade up your filofax from a personal to an A5 because you've got several of them and you've never used them? Give it a try for One Book July. Hey, I'm a poet and didn't know it. Try it out. It's only a month. If you don't like it, you don't like it. You can go back to your old system in August. Hopefully with a few new things that you've learned and picked up from other people and said, you know what, this is what I'm doing and this is what's working for me and this is what isn't working for me and this is why I'm going back to my old system. Equally, I see a lot of people saying, oh, I can't do One Book July because I always use one book. Well, yeah, but there's plenty of other people who don't use one book, okay? So show us what you're doing. If you always use one book, why? Why does it work for you? How do you make sure that that one book has everything you need? What do you do with your books afterwards? How do you archive them? How do you make sure that you know what's in each book? How do you transition from one book to another? There's all this stuff that you have knowledge of that those of us who don't usually do that have no clue what you're talking about. So make videos on that. If you already do One Book July all the time, show us how. Give other people ideas. That's what this challenge is about. It's sharing ideas. And every single year, and you'll hear Carrie and Vicky say this as well, every single year we learn something new and we learn it from you guys. Every single year, guaranteed. If it hadn't been for one of you people talking about your One Book July, I would never have discovered friction highlighters, which are now my beloveds. Friction highlighters and friction pens for my planning. Oh my goodness, game changer. I love it. Here's another idea. Maybe you've been considering ditching paper planning altogether. Maybe you've been considering trying app planning. Well, July is a good time to do that because most of the kids off school. So suddenly you don't have as much to plan. Add to that the fact that an awful lot of people have at least 1 week of summer holiday in July, and you've probably got a lot less going on day to day. You know, things like dance schools break up and stuff like that in July. So there's a lot less going on. Now is a good time to figure out what is going to work and what isn't. In terms of digital planning, perhaps you've been wanting to try an app, but you can't figure out what's going to work and what isn't. Download 3 or 4 and give them a try. Try them out, see what works. Maybe there is an app that will help you go through what you need on a daily basis or track what you need on a weekly basis for repetitive appointments. Maybe just a calendar app. Maybe something simple as Google Calendar and a task list is actually going to work for you. If you're interested in digital planning, go and check out Laura over on Get Your Shit Together. GYST, just Google it, look it up. She's on Twitter, she's on YouTube. I'll put a link down below if I can remember to look for it. She does all things digital. She's a paper planner as well, but she does all things digital. There is a girl on Instagram who has started using her iPad as her daily journal. So she's got one of those Apple pencils, and she does her day journaling on her tablet as she goes through the day. Maybe that's something you can consider if you've been thinking, well, I'd quite like to try something digital. Go for it. Have you got an iPad and an Apple Pencil, or have you got a phone with a stylus? Maybe that's something that will work for you. Maybe a backup in digital is something that would help you in terms of not having to carry 5 planners with you every time you go out. There's lots of different ways you can change up your planning or change up your journaling. Even change up your art making. Are you a traditional artist and you've been dying to try out digital media? Well, now's your chance. Get out your iPad or your phone, pick up a cheap stylus, off you go. Give it a try for a month. If you absolutely hate it, you'll know. But you've tried it. And because you've tried it for a month, you'll have that time to say, well, I've only been doing it 2 weeks, so of course it's not going to be very good. And you'll be in that mindset. And if you absolutely hate it, then you'll say, it's okay, I'm only doing it for another 3 weeks anyway. It's fine, I'll just keep going with it, I'm going to get to the end of July and then I'm never doing this again. You know, it's perfectly okay to do that. And that is what One Book July is about. There are no rules, there are just guidelines, ideas, and sharing as a community hundreds and hundreds and hundreds and thousands, possibly even millions of ways of doing things, because everybody thinks and works in a different way, and everybody's planners are different, and everybody's journals are different, and everybody's way of making art is different, and everybody's way of doing project life is different. It doesn't matter how you do it. Do it, share it, watch other people's stuff, learn from it, have fun. Oh, I'm sorry, I lied. There is one rule. The one rule for One Book July is have fun. If you're not having fun, you're doing it wrong. Sorry.